Is that good?
Couple
that
more.
good? That good? Testing.
That's good.
And I guess mine's at the very end for some stupid reason. Testing. Yep.
Just unplug those?
Yep. Yep, it sure is.
Did the labels fade?
There's not any labels, Shawn.
Are you sure?
Move that, maybe move the corner mic there.
Oh, yeah. You got a corner mic.
So it's not in your screen.
There you go.
There you go. Maybe leave Bobbly Man in there.
The AI will detect him. It thinks it's a person talking, so it like zooms in on its face.
Yeah. We'd hate for Dansby Swanson to take any of the spotlight.
There we go. Hey, welcome back to... I forgot the name of our podcast.
Thought Process.
Thought Process. How you doing, everybody? Thank you again for joining us. We got Dylan. I'm your host, Shawn. We got Dylan over here as co-host.
How?
How are you doing, Dylan?
Too good.
And then today's special guest is going to be Cory. Hello, Cory.
How are y'all?
We're doing great. Cory is a co-host of a massive podcast. It just crossed over 71,000 subscribers, correct?
That is correct,
Whoops,
man.
wrong camera.
Yeah, I believe that clicked over this afternoon. Clicked over to 71, so we're really excited about that, and we're honored to have that many subscribers.
It is amazing. I am the actual producer for that podcast.
You are. You do a fantastic job for us.
I keep clicking the wrong
Producer
camera. I'm
Shawn.
so sorry. I can't produce my own podcast, but I can produce y'all's perfectly.
Yeah, you do a great job.
I appreciate that. But yeah, we got Cory McClendon here. We told him we could be a little more edgy on this one because, it is an edgy podcast. Ain't that right, Dylan?
Roll Tide.
So glad Dylan could be here today.
Gotta have my input, man. I'm prepared.
Oh my gosh. So, anyway, Cory, you know Dylan, correct?
I do. We actually grew up around the same area. I think my mom was the church secretary of the church y'all attended. So several summers, I think your mom and you and your brother would come up there and like hang out, and we'd play basketball in the gym and stuff. So known Dylan for a while.
Cross paths.
Yeah.
A lot.
That's sick. You guys went to the same school. Me and you got confused. We was talking about it earlier because I thought you was talking about Cody, that the salesman that works here. Cody, shout out Cody Clayton. You guys can go follow him. He's trying to make it big on TikTok. Links down below. But we were talking. I was like, Cody went to Vinemont because he was in elementary school with me. Because we were talking about 9/11, and so I was in third grade in Miss Chambers' class when 9/11 happened. I know this is like this was months ago. I feel like it's pretty comfortable now to talk about. Do you think so?
Did you say it was months ago?
Wasn't it?
The anniversary?
9/11?
Yeah.
It was months ago.
Wait, hang on.
It was 2001.
No. Like
Okay.
the where we celebrate it. I'm not celebrating. I'm so sorry.
Starting off well. The anniversary of 9/11, which will be September 11th.
I'm so sorry. Not celebrating it.
It's November.
We memorialize it.
I'm glad I wore my helmet.
Oh my gosh. Well, boys, I'm going to head on out.
All right, look, I'm sorry. It's where we
Recognize.
There you go.
We
Yes.
remember what happened that day
Yes.
and the lives that were lost.
Anyway, I was in third grade and we were watching it on an old square TV when it happened, and he was like, you had, and we were talking. I had a serious conversation about it, And we were talking about it, and Cody was like, "You had Miss Chambers?" And like, serious conversation gone, just instantly. But that happens all the time.
Yeah. So y'all went to school together. What you were a couple years older than me, wasn't you?
Yeah, I graduated in 10.
Yeah, I graduated in 12. So, but yeah, no, definitely Cold Springs is not a huge school. So you definitely know everybody that goes there and everybody that graduated before and after you, or different classes.
So you graduated in 2012.
I did.
I think I was supposed to graduate in 2011, 2012.
Yeah, so funny story about that. I graduated as a 19-year-old. I had to do kindergarten twice. I kept coloring outside of the circles.
Baby, no shame. I did second grade twice.
And couldn't get that right, and so I had to repeat that again, and so I was a little older.
So kindergarten was the best 2 years in your life.
Yeah, absolutely it was. I don't know if you remember this, but the K plus class that they did, like, it was like they created this program for like kids that weren't ready to go to the first grade, and so it was like a half a grade level. And so I did that with my boy Brandon Lynch. We were in the same class in that K plus squad.
K plusers, shout out.
And
Yeah, just call him out.
yeah, there's several other people that are in there.
Yeah.
So
Take him down with you.
that's right. So
Look at you now, though.
I know.
Look at you now.
It's
Same
crazy.
place.
Host of a massive podcast, co-host actually.
Yeah, but it's yeah, it ended up working out. But I did like going to Cold Springs. I like the smaller school. But
Well, I tell you what, I didn't. Vinemont's a small school, and we all know my thoughts on school.
Sean loved it.
yeah,
He wants to go back now.
Yeah, I was gonna say thinking about going back again, huh?
Yep.
No. Golly, I keep getting swapped up on the cameras.
We can take you back to 9th grade. Put you back in.
Absolutely not. I get, like I said it before on this podcast. If I had to go back and redo it, I would have quit sooner.
Yeah. Or switch schools.
Oh, you
Yeah.
go back and do the Billy Madison thing.
Yeah.
Just start all over, man.
That would be a very, as an adult, like dude, I would have so much fun. I would be such a smart aleck. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All them kids make fun of your YouTube, though. You know, they criticize it all the time.
You think so?
Probably. I've seen a lot of kids criticize YouTube. So, oh, you're not that great. And then they talk about all the big streamers and stuff like that. I'm like, they're so fake, though. They're not real like us.
Yeah. So my daughter, this is, when the big craze of the YouTube thing, like where kids were watching YouTube or whatever, Kinsey was watching YouTube. But this is before I took it away from her or whatever. But she would tell all her classmates and stuff that I was a YouTuber. And she said all her classmates were just like, thought she was like, the best kid ever because her dad was like a big YouTuber. But at the time only had like 1,000 subscribers or something like that.
That was big time back then, though, for us.
It very much was. Sorry.
No,
I thought you was about to talk.
No, I had a similar experience with that. Like Jer, my oldest son, that's 8. He's really into like watching Among Us and like different YouTube stuff, and he likes watching Minecraft videos.
Yeah.
And so he was watching a bunch of stuff, and then I guess he was on my channel or something, and so like Yoders Talk came up, and like I walked in and like he's watching one of the episodes, and he was like, "Daddy, you're on the TV," and I'm like, "Yeah," and he was like, "So like you have a YouTube channel?" And I was like, "Yeah, son, we've talked about the podcast, like you know about this," and he was like, "My dad's a YouTuber," and I was like, "Yeah, I guess."
Like he's seeing a celebrity for the first time.
I was like, he was like, "That's really cool." So like for like 2.5 seconds, I was like, "Oh my gosh, my kid actually still thinks I'm cool."
He's
and
proud of me.
And then like immediately does something that I'm like, "Come on, dude!" Like, like so that's the story of my life with my kids. Like they constantly do like little things that are like really really awesome, and then they do something, and I'm like, "Well, we still have some stuff to work on." But
so that's how Winter is. She'll see me on Shawn's channel and stuff, and she's like, when can I go with you and do that? I want to do that. I want to be on there with you. I want to play games with Shawn. But she's so smart. It's like you can't trick her in anything. You gotta be straight with her, or she's gonna figure it out. But
you never. So subscribers are just another thing, right? You never really understand it until I really don't know like how to explain it or whatever. I feel like I can't hear myself on here.
I can hear you good.
You can?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's so weird. Maybe I've got my volume turned down too low. Hello? Check. There we go.
You turned up
I
everybody.
turned up the master, sorry. But anyway, when you never really understand like subscribers, for instance. So when I was grinding for subscribers, I thought, subscribers were everything. Getting up there, getting to 1,000 and then to 1,400 and then to 2,000 and then to 3,000. And it went so slow that I never really, because I'm at 8,600 right now, or 86, almost 8,700, something like that. But it went there so slow that it never dawned on me that, like, hey, that's a lot of subscribers. And then when I show my channel to people, they're like, dang, like I've got 50. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? That is like.
I remember when we had 50.
Yeah.
It was like grinding, get 100, and you're like, woo, milestone.
Well, yeah. and I think that's something like my first real introduction to YouTube was the Yoders Talk podcast.
Yeah.
And so like it kind of blew up very, very quickly. And Shawn's had to tell us like, and I'm really thankful to have Shawn because he knows this world. He knows stuff like that. He just allows me and Clinton to talk about what we want to talk about and talk about what our goal is to help people lead with a purpose and things like that. And we've had a lot of exposure and a lot of subscribers. And, Shawn will say it to us and to other people. We really can't comprehend what 71,000 subscribers looks like. And so that's been a challenge for me to wrap my head around that because it did kind of happen quick and it did kind of happen like it's kind of it almost feels flukish, I guess I should say, Shawn.
Yeah.
And so we're having to kind of look at it from a completely different standpoint of us as the two guys, the two personalities on the podcast. We don't really understand it, don't get why it's happened like this.
Yeah.
But like it is one thing that we do attribute to, one of the things that we say on that podcast is it's God's podcast. It's what he wants us to do. And, if it's his thing, then then God is going to make it be what it needs to be. And so it's something weird about it because like we say all the time and people that actually know me, like Cody, you can speak, or Dylan, you can speak to this. You know where I come from. I'm just a redneck from Cold Springs. There's nothing special about us. And it's weird, like, if that makes sense, to see subscriber counts. But we really don't pay that much attention to it.
Yeah. So how Yoders, I could see this is, honestly, I don't think I've ever told y'all this. So I could see the influence that y'all have. And the reason in that is I got pulled over and he said, where are you headed? I was like, I'm headed to Yoders. I work down here at Yoders Woodworks. I'm their marketing manager. I'm headed down there for work. He was like, oh, okay, yeah, you're good. Just, slow it down. And I was 25 over this. I was doing 80 mile an hour down 157. And he let me go after I told him that. And I was like, oh, crap, okay. And then at a gas station, we were sitting there and they come up and say, hey, it happens all the time. People come up and like, hey, nice car, and talking and they're like, where you work? And I'm like, oh, I work down there at Yoders Woodworks, and they're like, oh yeah, I know them. So like you guys have like a massive influence and y'all just didn't know. So when we were sitting in there talking or me and Clinton was sitting in there talking and we was like you got to get it. Like you need a radio station. You need something. You got to get out there and like you have so much, like put this wisdom that you have somewhere to where the internet can find you. and he was like, well, we tried a YouTube video one time. I was like, oh, let me check it out. I mean, I'm a YouTuber, you know, I know this stuff.
Yeah.
And so he showed me he gave me a link to the channel. Some guy come film. They really wanted, you know, to film them and, you know, make a video out of all this stuff. So they come by, filmed them. I watched it, and it was just like B-roll out the hazoo. You know what I'm saying? I mean, B-roll everywhere, like all the way to drinking coffee. And then it finally got to the point, like Like I said, I was like, I understand why y'all didn't like this. And I was like, really, if you want, you know, all this knowledge that you guys have and you're throwing around, you're only throwing around to your employees. And you're, you know, you're going to all these conferences and stuff. I said, you know, put this on the internet and, you know, capitalize on this stuff. So...
And you really don't know your reach either, because you have all these subscribers, and it could be someone that lives across the street over here could be watching it, or it could be someone in a foreign country that's watching it. And I like their, you know, like with their podcast, having a purpose and stuff, you don't know who it's going to reach, and it really ain't about reaching the great majority. It's just about reaching the people that need it the most.
And that's been something that we've said from day one is like, hey, like we're doing this for the one purpose, or the one person that needs to find a purpose. And if we do that, we feel like we're doing a good job. But yeah, Shawn's done a great job for us, so I always like to give him, I don't give him enough credit for what he does. So here's your chance. And,
I appreciate it.
Shout out to the followers in Pakistan of Yoders Talk. Also, we have a large following in Pakistan. I don't know if I should be concerned or really fired up about that.
Subscriber farm over there. Yeah, they're doing a good job.
Yeah,
that was we won't talk about it, but it was you know why.
I do know why. But there is quite a large following in Pakistan, and we appreciate those followers.
We didn't ask for them,
but they did find us.
But yeah, I noticed the influence that you know, the Yoders, you know, had or whatever, and you know, we sit there and we hashed it out. We was talking about videos and stuff and how we could, you know, make this better. And then I was like, yeah, you just need like a podcast. And it was so funny. We were sitting there talking. I was like, yeah, we just need like start a podcast. He was like, man, how would we do that? And I was like, I mean, it ain't nothing but money. I said, I mean, it ain't
so
nothing
casually.
Yeah. I said, it ain't really nothing but money. You just, you know, a couple microphones, a couple cameras, and a building. I mean, you got a building out here that we could set up in. And Clinton was like, all right.
Yeah.
And it was over with like that.
I remember. See, I probably hadn't talked about this on our podcast or any podcast, but so like the night that I got called and got asked to be the co-host.
Yeah.
And so like I was coaching a baseball team at this time, and so like I'm out there warming up with, you know, one of the other coaches. We're throwing the baseball, just trying to get our arms warm so we can go into practice. And so like Clinton never calls me after hours. And so like I seen his phone, like my phone light up and it said it was Clinton. And I was like, oh my gosh, like something's burning down.
What did I do
like,
wrong?
You know, and so like I picked up the phone and I was like, hey man. And he's like, hey, you got a minute to talk? And I'm like, you know, immediately like all the anxiety of my life just sits down on me like I've done something wrong. Like I'm going through like a checklist of like, did I do this? Did I do that? Did that? And which, like, if you don't know, like Shawn knows Clinton, like he's one of the, I mean, I will work for that man for the rest of my life. Like
I will too, 100%.
And like he is so gracious and he is such a great leader, and I'm just honored to get to be a part of what I get to be a part of. But like it's still nerve-wracking no matter how, like it's almost like you forget who he is in those moments of high anxiety, and that's all anxiety is just it's like focused on the unknown and the things that are not anywhere close tied to reality. And so like my anxiety goes off like I didn't do something, I didn't do whatever, and he's like, hey, listen, me and Shawn were talking about starting this podcast, and I really think that you would do a really good job as the co-host. of it. And I was like, okay, like, what does that look like? And he's like, well, we just want to talk about this and that and whatever. And I was like, well, can I think about it? And he was like, yeah, like 100% you can think about it. He was like, just let me know tomorrow or whatever. And I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna talk to my wife about it, you know, and make sure, because I'm sure it'll be a little bit more demanding, you know, at work and stuff.
Yeah.
And which it hasn't at all.
Yeah, it really hasn't.
And so go home that night after practice, and I'm like, hey, babe, like, this is what Clinton's asked me to do. What do you think about it? And so she was like, you know, like, do whatever you want. That's fine. She was like, I don't really understand what you're talking about. So just do whatever you want. So prayed about it, and I called him back, and I was like, hey, man, let's do it. Like, let's just try it and see what happens. And we're about to end our 3rd season. And like I say, the subscribers have been great. I get to go to Africa because of this podcast, and get to do so many things that are God-sized dreams inside of my life because of that. And it's been crazy, but it's also been at times like I said earlier, like Shawn has to like bring me back into like, hey, like I constantly, like, Shawn will be like, hey, this is a really big deal, and I'm like, is it? Like, is it a big deal? Like, I mean, this is just like normal. And so like, but it's some cool stuff that we get to do, and Shawn gets to be a part of, and next year, once he gets his passport in order, he can go to Africa with us.
I've missed this year because of that reason.
Yeah, didn't have his passport.
Unfortunate. And it was a good little deal too, wasn't it?
It was awesome. I will go live. Shout out to my Ugandan friends in Uganda, Africa. We love you, and can't wait to see you again.
Yeah, that we have a they had me. So on that side of the world, it's daylight. On this side of the world, it's nighttime. It's like 1, 2 in the morning. These guys over here hit me up on Discord, dude, and then they're throwing stuff up. We need the logo. I'm like, all right. Clinton's like, clock in. I was like, okay.
But that was that was really funny. Let me tell you that story. So we're sitting in this pastor's office, right? And so like Micah Camper, which is the missionary over there, dude's awesome. And he's like, hey, like, I can make a quick graphic to throw up because we're at this business conference. We're getting to talk at this business conference. Yeah. And he's like, do y'all have the logo? Well, me and Clinton look at each other and we're like, no. Like, that's not really our thing. And so, like, I looked at Clinton. I was like, what time is it at home? And he was like, I think it's like 2 o'clock at home. I was like, Shawn's up. I was like, 100% Shawn's up. Yeah. And like, I hop on Discord real quick, and I seen you were in your Discord playing video games. I was like, dude, text him right now. He'll send it and stuff. And he, but yeah, no, that was.
Clinton was so surprised. He texted me. He said, "Hey, are you up?" And I said, "Yeah, LOL."
But it was like 9 o'clock in the morning over there.
Yeah. I hope you don't do this during the work week. Is what he's thinking.
No.
2 a.m.
Yeah, he texted me. He's like, "You up?" I was like, "Yeah, LOL." And he was like, "Can you clock in and do me a favor?" And I clocked in for like, I think it was like. He had me doing stuff for like an hour. What was it, like an hour or two?
Probably so.
I was up till like 3 in the morning with you guys.
Yeah, that was such a fun.
I was about to go to bed. I was thinking.
It was an experience.
It's a lot of fun, and I can't wait for you to get to go to see it. But like I tell my wife all the time, that's my retirement plan is go to move to Uganda, to Ibanda. So
Ibanda.
It's funny.
But yeah, yeah, just the whole to bundle that up is you really don't know like the reach and stuff that you have until you really start. You guys had no idea. Honestly, you had no idea. And then once we got on YouTube, it was like the subscribers haven't stopped. I'll be quite honest with you. The subscribers, like, I think they slowed down during the off season. Am I correct on that?
I believe so. That's what I was about to look up real quick. I have that ability Yeah.
So
Look that up.
I know what you mean though about like being put on the spot. I know someone that has a YouTube channel that has red hair that likes to put me on the spot.
100%.
It's like, let's do something, and I'm like, let me think about it. And then sometimes it's like, I don't know if I can manage that or not. And then he's like, let's do it, man. And then I'm like, okay. So that's how we're here. So,
yeah.
But I did miss him some, and life's getting a little better spots for the both of us. I feel like it was an appropriate time to get back on the
jump back into it.
Yeah, why not? We at least talk about stuff.
So how long have y'all two known each other?
Oh man, me and Dylan have known each other for, I think we met when we were 15, correct?
Something like that.
15 or 16. And we had auto technology together. So we were into cars, working on cars together, and then we built a friendship out of that. Got a paddling together. That was really cool. That was a really cool bonding experience. Yeah, skateboarding was, dude, it was insane. We hung out, and it was like every single night we were like out skateboarding.
Playing Halo.
Yeah, and staying at my house, and yeah, we've been best friends for a long time.
Almost 20 years, I guess, if we were 15.
Yeah, 20 years. That's correct.
Yeah, ain't it weird? Because like Brandon Lynch is kind of like that for me, and like when you think about like, it don't seem like 20 years that you've been friends with someone. Then you start doing the math in your head, and you're like, oh my gosh.
Yes.
Like I've known, like this person's like a vital part of my life now. Like I've known Brandon longer than I've known my wife. And like like he's such a vital part of my life, and me and him fight like brothers.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny because like he runs down at Yoder Metal. He runs all the production team, and I run the sales team, and those two teams are the teams that fight the most, like because they affect each other the most. And so like I think it's kind of somebody did that on purpose, so me and Brandon would just fight all the time. But literally he'll come in my office and me and him will just hash it out.
Yeah. About
whatever it is. And but I would not want to do anything different than what we're doing, me and him, and getting to be a part of it, because he's a really good person, and he cares for people, and he's a new dad. He's got a kid, and seeing him being a father is pretty when your best friend has his first kid,
yeah,
like it changes your view of them just a little bit, because like you see him as like the like y'all can probably attest to that in y'all's relationship.
Yeah.
That
yeah.
You see him as like somebody that's like irresponsible and you've done all the dumb stuff with, and then all of a sudden they're dad, and you're like,
Dylan?
Shawn never changed from that.
Like,
he had the kid first a long time ago, and he's still the same.
Like,
maybe slowed down some.
Oh my god! I
think it's because of
face.
I think it's because of injury mainly. Your injury, and that's kind of what got you off of being so crazy. But
I'm still a little crazy.
Yeah, he's like he has a dad life at home, and then he's like crazy life when he leaves home.
Yes,
he's like a separate personality, I guess.
Yes, so. I've been told this multiple times. When I'm at home, I'm dad. Like, yeah. It's so crazy to, if you watch, because I've got cameras all over my house, right? If you watch my home cameras, you're just like, holy, like that's not Shawn. You know what I mean? But when I'm not like around them and I'm like out, just being me, I'm like a different person. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. What do you guys think?
Well,
similar to like work, kind of have your own personality at work, and goof off, have friends, and then you go home and it's like different, or around friends is different.
Yeah,
I would say like for me, so like at work, I'm not super serious, but like when it gets time to be serious, I have to be serious.
Yeah.
But like at home, like with my boys, like it's not that I'm serious, I'm just intentional.
Yeah.
Like I'm intentional with what I say, how I say it, because I realized like I've got 2 little boys that everything that I do either condones or like corrects something.
Yeah, that's how I feel with Tenny and Kinsey, because they view me, you know, and at home, like I'll be gaming and stuff, and I'm usually pretty authentic. Like I've always said I wanted to be like as authentic as possible when it comes to like parenting. Mm-hmm. So I want to be myself. But when you see me at home, it's like a different. Unless I'm like gaming, unless I'm like on Call of Duty, you know how everybody is on Call of Duty. Yeah. But unless I'm on like Call of Duty or something, I'm usually pretty chill for the most part. And then like even with Taylor, like me and Taylor around the kids, we're pretty serious for the most part. Now when my oldest daughter is different because she's a teenager, so when we go to the store or something, I'm a little more me when it comes to that, because she gets to see that, and she's, she wants me to be authentic when it comes to that sort of stuff, because she's at the age where she knows that stuff. Yeah. And so I'll be, we'll be running around the store, and I'm like, I'll grab a donut or something, throw it at her, and she's like, "Stop it!" And I'm like, "Hey, somebody else!" I'll just be dumb or something.
Well,
but
I've always thought in my head, like. So like Jer, we had Jer. Let me think. I think I just turned 24, maybe 25. I have to do the math, and that's hard.
I was 18 years old when Kinsey was born.
So, like, for me, I was old enough to kind of not know everything about life. Mm-hmm. Like the dad that I am to Wiley, my 2-year-old, and the dad I was when Jeremiah was 2 is 2 different people. And so, but the one thing I've always done with Jeremiah is I've always tried to explain the world to him in a way that's almost like an adult. Yeah. And because the thing I've always said is like, that's how I wish I would been, somebody would have talked to me, is real. And, like I let him, and some people argue with me and say this is not, it needs to be, but I never want to make the statement of like, hey, we're going to do this just because I said so. Like I want to have an intellectual conversation with my kid and make him understand like, hey, listen, Daddy's making this decision for us because this is the information I have right now, and I'm going to make the best call for us as a family with this information that I have. Yeah. And, even talking to him about different things that our family faces, he's not going to agree with me on everything. Yeah. Like he's going to sit there and be like, "Daddy, I don't like that we're making this decision." And I've even told him that, you know what, Jer, I understand that you don't like that. Daddy's making the best decision with what he's got right now. And in 10, 15 years, me and you might be sitting down at breakfast one day or hanging out, and we may both look back and go, that wasn't the right call. Yeah. But we're making the best call in the day and time that we have. And the reason I talk to my kids that way, like, and I talk to the 2-year-old, you can't really talk to because he's just feral. And
surely not.
Dude, he's crazy, but he's like literally a bundle of joy. Like you cannot make that kid sad. But he's crazy. But the reason I feel it's so important for me to talk to him like that is that's how the world talks. Yeah. And so what I'm trying to do as a dad for my son is prepare him for a very, very harsh world. And if I can do that and give him little pieces of that while he's 8, by the time he gets to 18, he's going to understand how the world functions and how the world works. So he's not waiting on Daddy to make things, go right for him. Shawn hears me talk about this all the time. Like, we don't do participation trophies in my house. Yeah. Like, we don't do that kind of stuff. We don't do, like, I never let him win. Like, we actually played basketball Sunday after church. And, I pulled up and hit a 3 in his face to beat him. And, and gave it to him. I'm like, did you see that? That was literally the coolest thing you'll ever see. And he's over there like his head hung down. But he knows, like, Daddy's not going to let him win. Like, But the thing is, what I feel like as a parent that we do so many times, and I've argued this for a long time, my job is to prepare my sons for a hard life. So when they do encounter problems, they go, this isn't nothing. Like, my dad prepared me for these times.
Yeah.
And, like, the day that Jeremiah finally beats, because that day's coming. Like, he is such a better athlete than I ever was. He is such a smarter kid than I ever was. Like, the kid's brilliant, smart, talented, and his little brother is just as smart, just as talented. That day is going to come where he's going to hit the 3 in my face, and he's going to be like, you like that? And I'm going to be like, yeah, I do like that.
And then you'll go cry in the corner.
But, like the thing, 100%.
My boy's growing up.
Yeah, 100%. But, you look back and you go, but which one means more to a kid?
Yeah.
That dad that let him win ever since he was 6, or the 12-year-old, 13-year-old that has been battling against his dad for years trying to beat him, and he finally gets that win.
Yeah.
Which one means more to a kid? And I think it's the kid that had to work for it, strive for it. He had to work on that shot a little bit more. He had to work on his dribble, his left-hand dribble, all those things to beat a larger, opponent.
Yeah.
And, but, sometimes I've said this a lot. Millennials get like a tough rap by the generation that raised the millennials, and it makes no sense to me, right?
Yeah.
So what I mean by this is like our parents, and I love all. I don't know your parents, Shawn, but I do know Dylan's parents, and they're shout out to Bruce. I still remember that Upwards basketball team, but all of our. I'm not really saying this about our parents, but there are parents out there that will straight up dog their kids' generation for not working hard, or they'll call them the participation generation.
Yeah.
But I've never seen a 6-year-old, on a baseball team stand up and be like, you know what would be really great? If we, at the end of the season, we gave out participation trophies.
No.
It was the parents of the millennials that made up participation trophies.
Yeah.
And so, like, they sit there and they're the ones that make it up. But I think that's everyone. And as our generation, we have to do a good job of understanding the next generation that's coming after us to not be that way. To be encouragers, to be people that fight for them, show them the way, and help them up instead of put them down.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like last Wednesday I helped teach an RA's class, and that's what, like I was telling them, like what we're doing in this class is giving you a foundation. Like, we raise our kids and we want them to have a foundation, and like, what do you want your foundation to be on the rock? So if you get storms coming, it's going to, not sway, and the house will stay where you want to be in the sand, where you're sinking and everything's falling apart, your house falls apart, you got to figure things out. I mean, I just want them to be solid in what you teach them, because they'll always go back to what you teach them. They'll remember that when they're young.
Yeah. And raising, I mean, I was 18 when I had Kinsey, and I was just a kid, raising,
was.
It was so yeah, I was a kid, 100%. And going through those years, and then, getting up there, now she's a teenager, and I'm a little, I'm more, prepared now, because we have Tinley now. And, I'm a little more prepared as a parent now because we've been through it. And so, Kinsey sees like the difference in the difference in raising. She's like, why you do that with her? And I was like, well, I didn't get on to you for that, and now I'm paying the price because you're a smart aleck to me. but I didn't get on to her for that, and and it caused you to be a little more, you're a little more mature than her, because we've been through a lot. My whole family has. She had to grow up super fast, and then, but yeah, it's like, I paid the price. I didn't now that I'm older, I understand like how to be a parent. Back then I was just a kid when I had you, so I was just like, just going through life as a kid, trying to raise a kid. and it's fine. It's worked out. Everything's, fantastic. She's a good kid. But, there's some things that, I could have done differently as a parent, and then probably would have been a little better on me.
Yeah. Well, and take heart in this. Any parent that tells you they know what they're doing is lying.
Yeah. I've always heard that.
Like, I don't know about you guys, but I'm a little bit more prepared for the second child.
Yeah.
But honestly, I'm not, because he's completely different than my first kid. Like, personality's different. The way he goes about life is different. Jeremiah was always kind of scared of stuff. Like, would never be too crazy, like trying to jump off. Like, Wiley, dude, that joker will jump off like a 10-foot drop. Like, he don't care.
Yeah.
And so you say hey, I got a general idea of what's going on, but honestly, man, it's just about processing. Parenting is about processing information super quick and making the best decision you can as fast as you can.
Yeah.
And you're going to look back and be like, man, I really wish I could have done something different. And, I wish I could have gave them this or done that. But you do the best you can with what you got.
Yeah.
And, if I would have went back and said, hey, do I wish that I could have changed something? And maybe Shawn, you think that sometimes of hey, maybe I shouldn't have had a kid at 18. But I fall back into this all the time because me and Jeremiah's mom are divorced, and we co-parent really, really well. And one of the best co-parenting situations that anybody could ever wish for. But I oftentimes find myself slipping into that mindset of would I go back and change anything? And to be honest, I wouldn't. Mm-hmm. Because those times produced the 8-year-old that I know and love right now. And it's produced the person who I am today. And every little situation that I've went through has just honestly been a situation that has led me to who I am today. And I don't know that I could change. I guess it's not that I would. I'm too scared it would mess up what I have going right now. Because it's such a beautiful, I have a beautiful life. I have a wonderful family. Lauren and Wiley and Jeremiah are the highlight of my life and the honor of my life to get to lead them as a husband and as a father. But going back and trying to change that, I'm so scared it would mess up what I have going on now. And I'm so proud of both of the boys, and proud to have my wife that I have. And I don't think that changing it would enhance it any more than it already has. And so I don't know if you have those thoughts, Shawn, but, or Dylan, but, just embrace what you have now, because the thing is, life is short, and me and my family are learning that right now with situations we have going on. And you just got to embrace everything that you have right now, and just understand that it's a gift, and we're just doing what we can with what we have.
Yeah, and you're 100% right. I wouldn't change anything, because Kinsey, we just click.
Yeah,
she's she's older now. She's a teenager, and so, we just click. We'll go to S&S, and she'll go with me, and we'll go in S&S, and we're just best friends, walking around and just trying to not necessarily prank each other, but we're going through and and trying to cause a scene to embarrass one another. And it just doesn't work because we're the same mind.
Yeah.
We're the same person. And and then I wouldn't change it, because I don't know if I would have the same relationship, that I have with her if I went back and changed, growing up like I did.
Yeah.
So she's been awesome for, she was a good kid growing up. She grew up a good kid. She did well. And then, getting to, to a teenager, it was a little rocky, but, like all teenagers are, I guess. I was rocky when I was a teenager.
I was going to say,
surely not.
Does that, I know like parents always say that. They're like, gosh, teenagers and stuff. But like, does that really surprise us? Because like, I remember myself as a teenager and like, I was just a mess of emotions and just didn't understand what was going on in life. And you just thought you did. Like, I don't know if any of y'all, like I used to think like my dad was an idiot. Like had no clue what was going on in life. And like now that I'm a 32-year-old dad, I have to look back and I'm like, golly, I had a good dad. Like that joker was on it.
Yeah, I remember thinking that. I would always try to look up Bible verses or something to throw at him and be like, you're doing this wrong. This is what the Bible says. And they'd be like, that don't work when you're a little kid.
No.
You don't know more than they do.
No, and both of us growing up in really Christian homes, I'm sure I know I had my hand at trying different things to make my point. Yeah. It's like my dad would like always like lean into that. Like we're going to do that because that's what the Bible says. And as a rebellious teenager, I'm like, well, let me show you what the Bible says. And he's like, that's out of context. And it was 100% was just trying to make a point.
My dad was, he was ruthless. He was a very ruthless dude. He was funny. And, I don't know. He was just like, for an example, one time it was like Christmas and I opened, it was like, those plastic bats come with plastic balls. Mm-hmm. And so I unwrapped it and it was like, oh yeah. So like I hit my sister with it, like in the arm. She was like, ow. My dad took that bat and just boom, 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 just beat me left and right. And it was just a plastic bat, so it didn't like hurt me or nothing. But I was like, God, dog, what are you doing? And he was like, you don't hit women. This is what happens when you hit women. And ever since then, I've never hit a woman.
Well, it seemed like the lesson resonated with you.
Point taken.
Yeah.
So that gives you like a pretty clear example of like how my dad was when he was growing up. He was a cool dude. Like we went hunting together and stuff like that. But he was old school for the most part, So
yeah, and I don't know. Maybe because I'm. Have y'all experienced, and I know y'all's parent situation's different than mine, but like seeing your parents become like grandparents, like have y'all seen the hypocrisy that comes out of their mouths?
Yeah, when my first kid was born, and going through life or whatever, like she got everything, especially like mom would just like come get her, and it was like, you don't have to do that. Like, we can, you ain't got to watch her. She's like, oh, no. You go do what you want. She'd come get her, just have her all the time and get her anything she wanted. Like, Kinsey was spoiled as a little kid. And I was like, man, she didn't do this for me?
Yeah, like I saw a meme one time. It was like your parents turn into grandparents, and all of a sudden they got McDonald's money. What's up with that?
100%.
My dad is like, so I'm a pretty big golfer, and so like that comes from me and my dad playing golf when I was a kid and stuff. But like he taught me golf etiquette like very, very quickly. Yeah. On the golf course. And so like that's something I still do. Well, now I'm trying to get my oldest son into it and stuff. And so like probably 2 months ago, all three of us went golfing together. And so I can remember distinctly one time I talked in his backswing. And dude, I got chewed up and down like one way or another. Like, hey, that's not what we do out here. You got to remain, all this stuff. And, like, totally cool, get it. Now, as an adult, totally get it, because I don't want nobody talking in my backswing. And so we're out there playing, and my dad's going to hit, and Jeremiah pops up right in the middle. And he, like, loved the kid to death. He's the most random kid. But he's like, hey, Daddy, there's a goose. And, like, right in the middle of my dad's golf swing. And Dad shanks it. And, like, I'm like, oh, he's about to get it. He's about to get it. Oh, Papa's about to show him. and I'm like, I turn around, I'm like, hey, we don't talk in people's, I'm about to go in on Jeremiah and get to have my dad moment with Jeremiah. And then here's little Papa popping up. Hey, son, don't crawl him for that. That's fine. I'd have done that no way. That's fine.
If only I could.
You leave that boy alone. He's fine. And I'm like, Dad, I'm trying to teach him a core value here. Like, I'm trying to have this child have like a core memory in his life on the golf course, so he'll never do this again. He's over there. No. So he can talk when he wants to. He can do whatever he wants to. He can go rob a liquor store if he wants to. If that's what he wants to do, go do it. Pop will take care of it. I'm like, my gosh, man. Like grandparents, man, they just, like, I tell everyone about my sons, like, and my in-laws, Kathy and Stan. Like, I tell them all the time, they are trying to see if they can get my boys into a federal penitentiary one day with how much, like, they just give them and stuff. Like, I'm pretty sure they could burn my in-laws' house to the ground. And they'd be like, that's fine. We needed a new house. Like, it was an accident. I don't understand what the problem is. So they're grandparents are, but I can't wait to be a grandparent because I'm going to do the same thing. Like, whatever Jeremiah or Wiley, when they have grandkids, or if I have another kid, they have kids, man, look out. Because Papa Cory is going to spoil those children rotten. Yeah. As much candy as they want, just because of all the times they've done that to me. So,
yeah, it's definitely, because like you said, we don't have McDonald's money, and then like now they do have McDonald's money. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. That math ain't mathin'.
Yeah, exactly. So during the episode, we have gone a pretty good while, and Dylan still got this cap on his head.
Yeah.
And nobody has said anything about it. It was because one of the subjects on today's topic was going to be about the aliens. But we've been having really good conversations about, everything else. So that's what's good about these podcasts. They just kind of take a twist and a turn, and we just talk about whatever. But with the alien situation going on right now, so yeah, so it's absolutely crazy to me that this is the second hearing that they've had, correct? And this is the second hearing they've had, and they are like, yeah, we got aliens. This time it's like they're living in the oceans. Like, we have aliens, we have a body, we have aircraft. Like, we have UFOs. And it was like, show us. Like, you keep saying this, but you're not showing us. You know what I mean?
It's like, I want to see Bigfoot. I want to, like, hang out with Bigfoot and see him. That'd be interesting.
So for me, I don't have a very high trust of the government.
No, we don't either.
Like, my thing is that I keep going back to, man, is one of those things, and I try to say this politely, but like, when they tell you something, it always gives me this vibe of like, what are you trying? Like, it's kind of the sleight of hand. Like, look over here, what I'm doing with this hand, so you don't see what I'm doing with this hand.
Like they're trying to cover something up.
Yeah, like it's like, hey, let's get them really dialed into this alien things in the ocean, and let's
Could be scare tactics too.
It could be, you
buy into war stocks or something for scare tactics.
Yeah, good. I mean, it very much could be. That's a real thing. But my personal opinion, if you want us to believe it, just show it. I mean, he was like, oh, it's highly classified. Like the guy that was talking or whatever.
I think there'd be more proof. I think there could be a possibility, but I think there'd be this long of time without a person and proof. It'd be really hard to suppress, because you know how stories are. They get out pretty quick. Even minor stuff could get out and spread like wildfire. So it'd be hard to suppress something all of these years, especially this day and age.
Yeah. Do you remember the guy that worked at Area 51? He was on Joe Rogan's podcast. I can't remember his name. Anyway, he worked there, and then I think it was the 1980s or 70s. He's the one that did the I can't remember his name. But he's the one that did the jet car. He was driving a jet car. Like he built his Honda Civic into a jet and was driving it back and forth to work, like solely on the jet car or on the jet motor. And it eyeballed the government. They wanted to check it out, and they hired him in Area 51. And he was put in place to reverse engineer aircraft, like an anti-gravity device is what he said. And his story's never changed. And he was like 20-something years old when they, caught him or whatever, spilling the government beans. But he only did it to protect himself because he was afraid because the government tried to erase his past and make him like a crazy dude. But he told the story to protect himself, and the story's never changed. Never changed, not once, all the way up to Joe Rogan. When he done it, it was like a 4-hour podcast. I watch it every now and then because it happened a while back. But anyway, that all, like, now they're saying like this is all real, and they have bodies and they have UFOs, but they, like I said, they're just not showing us. Like they're saying it's classified. Like you're telling everybody, but you're not showing us. It doesn't make any sense to us. Sense to me.
Unless they're scared someone else is going to take it and try to use the technology for bad or something like that. But
well, they also said that other governments they can't speak on other governments because the UFOs, and stuff, or aliens are around the other governments as well, but they can't speak on the behalf of the other governments because of how classified everything is, or something like that.
Don't want you to see what I got, so you can't show me what you got.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so I try to look at everything through like a biblical worldview.
Yeah.
And aliens are challenging to that worldview. And so to like acknowledge that it's not, I feel like is kind of putting God in a box. So like,
because anything's like,
it's sort of like dinosaurs too. Because I mean, that's kind of a gray area.
Well, the key is when you have a biblical worldview, God is God, right?
Yeah.
He can do anything he wants to do, right? We're only privy to so much knowledge. Now, I think one day when I go to be with him after I've lived this life and I go to heaven and live eternally with him, there's going to be certain things that maybe I get to understand and know, maybe not. That's okay with me. The Bible's very clear. I am judged on the information that I know, right?
Yeah.
And so, for me, like as I'm thinking about it, could there, the universe is so big, right? And it's ever expanding. To sit there and think to myself, is there something else out there? I think it's foolish to think that there's not. I think that the chances or the likelihood of there being something else out there is so much higher than just saying, because like as far as space exploration or whatever the word is, exploring space, what we've explored of space would be like, I've heard it put like this before, walking out to the beach, taking a glass of water, or a 20-ounce glass of water or glass, dipping it into the water and picking it up and looking at the glass and saying, well, there's no fish in here, so that means there's no fish in the sea.
Yeah.
And so the likelihood is there may be something else out there. There may be something in our oceans. Our oceans are not really that explored as well.
90 to 80% unexplored, correct?
Yeah, and so, yes, that could happen. There could be things out there that I just don't understand. Or it could just all be a lie trying to distract me from something. There could be so many things, and I think so many times we hinge on these thoughts and these things, and we sit there and we go, oh my gosh, like, it's the unknown, and we develop anxiety over it, have these, thoughts, and we obsess over it, and all of a sudden our For You page on TikTok is nothing but alien videos, and it's just we get so hyper focused on these things, and I just see it as like, hey, what am I being distracted from?
Yeah.
And the fact is, like, for me in my life, and I'm not saying this is y'all or anybody that's listening to this, when I get in those times, I feel like I get distracted from who I'm supposed to be and who I'm called to be by Christ Jesus. And when I forget those things, that leads me down a path that is never intended for me. And so for me as an individual, I feel like whatever happens with the aliens, or if it's a big government cover-up, or did we really go to the moon, or is Bigfoot real, or all these conspiracy theories out there, hey, if they're real, they're real. They'll show up one day, and I'll shake their hands and maybe try to introduce them as to Jesus Christ so they can accept him as their Lord and Savior. I'm that crazy about that. But the situation is, when that takes place, Jesus is still King. He is still Lord, and he's still going to be who I answer to. And if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And but is it interesting? Is it a lot of fun to look into? Yes, it is.
Yes, it very much is.
Because it's really, really crazy what all, but in this day and time, man, it's hard to just look at a picture anymore and know if it's real or not. I mean, 100% right now there is technology out there that someone could put a podcast out that it's not even me actually on the podcast. They could take images, take video and audio of my voice, and AI can generate me on a podcast and saying whatever they want to say. That technology is out there, so it's hard for me to buy in on just even images.
Yeah, they done it to Joe Rogan, I believe.
Yeah,
they've done it to a lot of people. But yeah. I think even the older claims are more believable. They could still be hoaxes and stuff, but who knows if it's even just advanced technology that we wouldn't even know about. They're just trying to keep the advanced technology on a low key, and people see it and they're like, oh, it's nothing, and then they think it's something extraterrestrial that it's not, and you can't ever tell what it really is.
Yeah, it's the government. It's really hard to know. That's why I said just show us.
Yeah.
Like if this is real, it's not covered up or anything, just show us.
Yeah, just wheel him out there on the Senate floor and let's take a look.
Yeah, show us a picture. Like throw a video.
I want to see a picture of Ted Cruz and a little gray man standing right beside each other, and I'll believe it.
And he's offering him a Zen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's one of the reasons Dylan over here has a.
Gotta protect myself.
Have you ever had any encounters?
I have. I'm probably one of the only ones here. You had any encounters?
I cannot say I've had an encounter with any extraterrestrials.
I don't remember how old I was. I had to get a refresher from my dad, but I was pretty young. And it was just over here on 222 around my aunt's house. I remember we was coming around this corner and coming down through there, and there was a giant, like, metallic object. I remember being more round. Dad think it was a little more triangle, but it was just floating. Like low, like barely above the tree line, just sitting there. And we just drove right on underneath it and kept going. And Dad was like, now that I think about it now, I should have stopped and just looked at it. I probably remembered it better, but it was just floating there. Just a big metallic floating object. Wasn't moving anywhere, wasn't making any sounds. It was just sitting there. And we drove underneath it and just, went on. And I was really little, but I still remember seeing it in my head. The image of that in my head was in the Jeep Cherokee. It was blue, 4-door. I remember most of the, I was sitting behind my dad on the left side and the back. Like, I remember it pretty well.
Yeah.
It was, and Dad was the same way when I talked to him about it. It's big metallic. I think he said it might have had like rivets on it or something. And he remembers wiring a house for someone in the Air Force, like a big high up in the Air Force, and he was asking him, do y'all have anything like this? And he's like, no, we don't have any kind of technology like that.
Yeah.
So he was just blown away. So
that's wild, because I listened to it's a podcast called Alien Like Us, and I listened to that podcast. They have like testimonies, and that's like right on par with like testimonies from other people that with like encounters and stuff. So that's pretty crazy. You've never told me that.
I know. I thought it was. I couldn't remember where it was, but Dad told us. He told me when I was on the way over here, because I had to get a refresher from him because I was real little.
Yeah.
But it was just right there in in Coleman, on 222, just on the road we drive on nearly every day.
I've never had any, I guess, encounters of something of like that level. But when I was younger, this is gonna sound crazy. When I was younger, was staying, at my cousin's house, and we had just got done playing Halo, or it may have been Gears. I think it was Halo. And I turned and we looked outside, and he seen it too, but it was a horse standing up on its hind legs with ripped up clothing. It was running down the road, and I was like, "What is that?" It was, but he said the same thing. A horse on its hind legs, and it wasn't just like it reared up and took off running. Like it was like running down the road, ripped up clothing on its hind legs. Pretty wild.
That is, wow.
Exactly. But I've never had any like alien encounters on that level.
Yeah, I was talking to Dad too. Like not much, even paranormal stuff. Like we haven't. When we used to always go to Bankhead, because we always say it's haunted out there and stuff like that. And we'd spend the night in the graveyard out there just hanging out, and we'd never see anything or experience anything. We go pursuing it pretty much. People would freak out and oh, there's something over there, and like we just like, let's walk over there. We just walk over there and there's like nothing. It's always explainable. Maybe seeing like orbs. I think we might have seen orbs before, but
we went out there with Jeffrey.
But they always claim them could just be like gases and stuff like that can form orbs. Yeah.
So this is super scary. We went out there, and it's weird. He's my uncle, but he's younger than me. My Uncle Jeffrey.
Is that the scary part?
Could be. It really could be. But he, it is Alabama. But but my Jeffrey, we went into that church. We went out there ghost hunting, and I don't like ghost hunting. I'm not a big fan of it. But I went with them, so we were all. You was there, Dylan. We were always going out there to Bankhead. And they all walked in the church, and they were all like, "Oh, ghosts, where you at? Blah, 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 come out." And we were all sitting outside because me and Kurt wouldn't have no part of it. So we were just like sitting by the car. And I think me and Kurt was like scared, like all of us were. But we were sitting out there watching. And then like Jeffrey said he was walking out. And he heard Sam, which is Kurt's sister. So he turned around and said, he turned around and looked, and Sam was crawling on the floor toward him. And he said, "Sam, quit." And he said, "That's scary." And he like turned around, and Sam was in front of him. So he like turned back around, and whatever that was gone. So he like ran out of the church, and he told me that, and I was like, "Golly!" And then another time that happened. Do you remember John?
Yeah, John Rogers was in the cemetery.
Yeah,
and he was like pale as a ghost. He said he swore up and down he saw something.
So he told me that next day we come back. So there's a story of a horse carriage there. I don't know the exact story behind it, but there's a horse carriage there, and if you see it, you got to go. If you don't, you're potentially you could die. I don't know the whole story with it, but you could die eventually. So they were telling John about it, and John said, he was like the person that like didn't believe in that kind of stuff. And this is the crazy part. He like didn't believe in like that kind of stuff. He's like, it's not real. Doesn't matter. He's like, I'll run through this graveyard right now. So we're like, do it. So he took off running. And he was like hopping over gravestones, everything. He's just like running over him. He gets over to the end. And he raises his phone up, and he's like waving his phone, right? And I guess signaling to us like, he's fine or whatever. Well, the phone dropped. And it was like, oh, he's just messing with us. This is how he is. So we got in the cars, we drove over there, and we pulled up on him, and he just standing there, like Dylan said, pale as a ghost, just standing there, just staring off in the distance, right? So, you know, hey, get in, we're leaving, blah blah blah. So he like slowly gets in the car. He didn't go for his phone. Somebody got his phone and give it to him. He got in the car and we left, and like he was just scared the whole time. And like the next day, like he didn't sleep or nothing. And then the next day, I said, "Hey man, what did you see out there? Like what's wrong with you?" And he said, I ran across the graveyard, jumping over the tombstones. And when I got over there, I was waving back to you guys, and I heard something snort like a horse. And when I turned and looked, there was a horse carriage. Like the whole thing was there. And he said he couldn't move. And then we just so happened to start pulling up. And I was like, that's pretty wild. And this is the crazy part, ever since then, he has been like a full-blown, like, I don't know how to say it. Dylan, do you know how to say it? It's like he's just been super religious. I mean, and he's never been religious. And he is
straight. He did some messed up stuff, I guess.
Yeah. And
crazy stuff.
He is straight, like, religious now. Like, I don't know how to explain it any better than that, but like he is like a flip of the switch, and he is like a seeker, you know. I mean, he will, like, he messaged me one time. We was talking about a motorcycle or something. He like caught back up with me because we ain't talked to him in years.
Yeah.
But he caught back up with me, and talked to me or whatever, and he was talking about motorcycles or whatever, and then like out of nowhere he just starts talking about like you are you in touch with Jesus, and like just out of nowhere, and it's like nothing. It's not something you would expect from him, and it was like that night changed him. It was crazy.
Yeah, he was a wild man. He had that Cavalier. He thought it was the hottest thing around.
Yeah.
He ended up like crashing it. Like the whole front suspension was messed up on it or something. So he took forever. He finally got up all the money to get it fixed. And he got his front ends fixed. And I remember we all went and watched Tokyo. That's when Tokyo Drift come out. So we was out there, we went to the movies, watched Tokyo Drift. So we all got back out, out of the movies, and we hang out at Walmart over there by where the gas station in that corner.
Yeah.
And he found the soundtrack, I guess, for, Tokyo Drift, the song that everybody plays. And so he's like, he's just into it, man. Just watch this movie, racing cars and stuff, and he's got that song blaring on his radio, comes flying up to where we're at and just nails that curb median between the gas station and Walmart. Just wrecks his whole car. Like, just got it back, went and watched the movie, and he's flying through the park and crashed it, just tore it all up again. So he just pulls it over in the parking lot and just leaves it. I think he quit paying for it and just left it, abandoned it. It's like, this is the kind of person he is. He's just like wide open through the parking lot and hits the curb and tears it up.
There is a school of thought that, all the ghost aliens, like I don't know, like on TikTok right now, all the stuff with the aliens, like they do, a lot of people are saying it's like demonic and all that side of it. And, I could see it. I could see that, especially like the paranormal activity and stuff like that. I 100% could see that. Like that being something, there's a tie to that. To it being a kind of a demonic situation. I've never had any encounters like that. Mm-hmm. I've been in like church services where there's been like I'm trying to phrase this the best way, like a manifestation of like a demon and demon possession and stuff, and seen like people get demons casted out of them and stuff. I've seen that happen before, and it's very scary stuff, and it's very makes your skin crawl just thinking about it. And I don't mess with that stuff. I don't seek it out. Like I don't even.
Same.
My wife makes fun of me sometimes because like I don't even want to watch scary movies.
Oh yeah.
Like I'm not the kind of person that Like I used to be when I was a kid. Like I would go to like Sloss Furnace or something like that. But like now, I'm not paying someone to scare me. Like I'm not doing that. I'm not gonna go watch a movie to scare me. Like not when there's classics like Happy Gilmore on TV
or something
like,
you learn something from.
Yeah,
I got messed up from Signs, man. Talking about aliens and stuff. I remember as a kid watching Signs, and literally, it's not that bad of a movie.
Yeah,
the part where the alien walks across the street, in front of the screen. After that, I had to go to bed. I couldn't watch nothing. Then I swore off scary movies from a long, long time after that. Then I watch it older as now, and that was the worst part of the whole movie was that fake alien walking through there, and I'm like, I really been messed up this whole time over that.
Yeah,
that's how it was. So
there's definitely some weird stuff out there, and I've always kind of said this in my own life: you find what you look for in life.
Yeah.
And so, if you want to find bad stuff, and you go out looking for it, you'll find it. If you want to find really good things in this world, go out and look for those things and you'll find it.
Yeah. And
I'm just not interested in searching out bad things in this world anymore. Like that's not who I am as a person now, and that's 100% has to do with my relationship with Jesus Christ. And if he wants me to have an encounter, quick story. I mean, I had a little bit of an encounter while we were over in Uganda. They call it the Mountain of the Moon, and there's some demon that is in that mountain that the people claim that is in that mountain, and probably has some validity to it. And they actually sacrifice children in a river that flows out of that mountain.
Yeah. And
while I was over there, like I said this on our episode that we were talking about it, like I was so because over there it's a lot different than over here. There's no distractions. You're very focused, and you can really, everywhere you go, you can kind of feel the tangible presence of Jesus everywhere you go. And like I was such on a closeness to Jesus, like I was ready to climb that mountain and take on that demon with a water gun. And so there's some really crazy stuff that I've seen in my life, but what I have come to find is if Jesus wants me to take those situations on, not only is he going to make it very plain that is what's going to happen, but he's going to equip me for that challenge. And it's not going to be anything that I do. It's going to be the power of Jesus Christ that lives inside of me. Mm-hmm. And so I don't really mess with those things because honestly I'm a scaredy cat with that. And but if that's I'm not gonna tell the God of the universe that I'm not gonna mess with it because he's God and he can tell me what to do. And if he sends me, then I say I'm gonna go, but when I go, he's gonna equip me for that challenge.
Yeah.
It's still interesting stuff.
Oh,
still,
super
put in
interesting.
Think about, look, not get too in depth. It's like you said, people could worship that kind of stuff and get in a mindset of positivity or negativity or belief. And I think a lot of it, you think about your brain, how much your brain can process, and a lot of that stuff, I think you could get in a situation, you believe it so much that you see minute things and you can make it out to be bigger than what it really is, just from not having faith in anything. You just, if you don't believe in anything, you can believe in everything. So that's kind of, some of the thought I think I have on it.
Yeah.
But I can see too, I was raised, Baptist church, so most of our stuff's pretty just Bible, and we don't get too crazy. And I've been to churches, like Church of Gods and stuff like that, and speaking in tongues and passing out in the Spirit, and some of that stuff's it's not really in my comfort zone. But if as long as it gets you to heaven, that's really what matters, no matter how you get there.
See, I've never experienced speaking in tongues. I've heard that starting, working here at Yoders and people talking about it and stuff like that. I've never really understood that kind of stuff.
Me neither.
And so, being here and learning about it and knowing that that's out there, I thought that was pretty. Because I asked Randall about it. We had like a massive conversation about it.
Yeah, and so like me, I grew up in the Baptist church as well.
Yeah.
And so like that's something that the Baptist church doesn't really talk about a lot. Because in their doctrine they don't believe in that. They feel like that gift left with the apostles. And you can make that I can see, well, I really can't see it. I'm going to be 100% honest. It doesn't have a biblical reference to that, and somebody's probably going to get on here and comment that yes, there is, and that's fine. That's wonderful. I'm not in the business as a redneck from Walker County of telling God that something can't be done. So I grew up in the Baptist church, but then I pastored an Assemblies of God church as I got older, and so they believe in speaking in the tongues, the whole baptism of the tongues and everything like that. And so I've experienced it. I have spoken tongues before, received the baptism of speaking in tongues and stuff like that. Where biblically, I think some of the more Pentecostal churches and where I kind of divide off from them is the Bible really only talks about two references to it, and that is a personal prayer language, more of a utterance of the soul when you have nothing else to say physically in your words. This comes out kind of pleading to the Lord with your heart. This is all that I can utter about this situation. So there's that. There's also in a corporate situation where that happens, but every time that in a corporate or a church setting where there's a body of believers there, that happens, there's also supposed to be a interpretation of those tongues that were said for the body of believers. So there's people that buy a little bit too much into that, and then there's people that don't buy enough into it. And where I land is I just love Jesus, and I want every gift that the Holy Spirit wants to place inside of me and me to use. And if that is that, then let's go. If it is not, that's okay too. And if we really, as believers, if we just focus on our relationship with Jesus and not being so close-minded to this is what we've done for the body or for the last 100 years, then I really think we could make an impact truly in the kingdom of God. Is sit there and say, hey, God, whatever you got for me today, if you want me to have a conversation with someone, then you set that up, and I will talk about you, and I will talk about our relationship, and how every time that I feel like there is no hope in the world, I'm 100% right. There is no hope in this world, but there is hope found through Jesus Christ. And that's something that I truly deep down believe, that this world is the closest to hell I will ever get. And it's also an honor to live this life because I get to live it, hopefully bring honor and glory to Jesus. Mm-hmm. But tongues it's so divisive, and it's something that we get hung up on, and it's weird for people that have never experienced it, and for people that have experienced it, or I think they put a little bit too much into, oh, if you don't speak in tongues, then are you really saved? That's not a salvation issue. That is as you grow in your sanctification, that is what that is. Mm-hmm. Is if you want to have that conversation. But the only thing you need to be saved through Jesus Christ is to admit that He died on the cross, He rose again on the third day, and we are saved by grace through faith of Jesus Christ being our Savior and our Lord. And everything else, hey, we can talk about later. We can get into that. But
yeah,
there's all kinds of crazy stuff out there, and when you have 15 different denominations, and then we have our new denomination that has started inside of the church world, which is the non-denominational church, which I think is hilarious.
I have to look into that one.
So I joke with people all the time. So like there's a whole section of church life now that they claim they're non-denominational. But if you go and look at all the churches, they look exactly the same. They talk the exact same, and they do the exact same things. And by doing all those things, they've almost kind of started another denominational called the non-denominational church, which is hilarious.
What does that mean, if you don't mind me asking?
So like
denominations like Baptist, Catholic, Methodist, Church of God.
Yeah.
So they're just saying they're not selecting a denomination.
They're just going straight or something.
Yeah. Basically. So basically, church leadership. And Shawn, I know this is probably not where you wanted this thing to go, but here it is.
It's completely okay.
So
got a whole sermon out of this,
which is so funny. Me and Clinton actually stayed up to for 4 hours and talked about this in Uganda one night. So, denominations basically is, hey, we have a governing body over our church. And so, like with the Baptist church, they have overseers. They have, like the Southern Baptist denomination has leadership. They have, like a pastor that is over all of the churches. They have different representation for the different churches and things like that. And there's a hierarchy than just the pastor at your local church. And that also, there's a lot of other things that go into it. I'm trying to put it in a nice little summarized thing. Church of God's that way. Assemblies of God is that way. And so non-denominational have kind of started like, hey, I don't like all the rules and regulation that this denomination is putting on the church. And in some places they're right. Because like there are certain things that are not, I'm trying to say how to say this without upsetting a lot of people, because it's not that they're not, well, it is. It's straight up. It's just not biblical. Like there are things that, like there's nothing in the Bible that says we have to sing out of the redback hymnal, right? There's nothing that says that. Yeah. You can't find chapter and verse that says like, hey, if we don't read out of the redback or sing out of the redback hymnal, then it's not biblical. Because the redback hymnal, I think I looked it up the other night, like it was wrote in or put together. Obviously, there's songs in the redback hymnal that are older than when it was all put together. But I think it was like 1956, and the Church of God was actually the publisher of that hymnal, and so. But there's some churches that believe like we can't worship God if we don't sing the songs out of the redback hymnal. That's not biblical. That is tradition and religion.
Yeah.
That's divided a lot of churches, because there's churches
100%
in Coleman that have blowed up, and they were big churches, and like they're about to move forward and make a really big church, and they'll split the church because they want to run the new music. They want to do like the modern stuff, like podcasting. They want to incorporate things that are more modern to reach people. And then you have the people that just want the hymnal and the piano and stuff like that.
So I'm going to talk, and I'm not going to say the church because like some of my family members still go to that church. I remember one time I was a teenager, and my dad was in a leadership spot at this church. And so they used to have business meetings. I don't know, Dylan, I don't know if you've ever had to sit through a business meeting.
Once a month.
Dude, on a Wednesday night, we'd have these church business meetings. And, dude, they'd bring the youth in there because we have to see how the church is ran, because we're the next generation. That was their thought process of how they incorporate the next generation into the church business. The problem was, for an hour, I saw Sister Susie and Brother Robert, argue about the color of the paint on the wall in the children's department. And there's as a teenager, all I saw was dysfunction.
Yeah.
And as a person that was newly having a relationship with Christ, and I was really fired up for winning people for Jesus, I saw these older Christians sit there and be like, hey, well, if we're going to do this, you know, we had a situation where we were like having to redo the sanctuary.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're having to completely gut it and redo it. And so what happened was there was paneling on the wall, right? Old oak paneling that we all can think of right now and know how atrocious and awful it looks.
I have some in
right?
my house.
And you probably need to get that taken care of.
Got like 4 different kinds.
Yeah.
It's awesome. You got the thin one,
Very,
the thick one. It's
very,
all mainly
very
in the
eclectic.
mainly in the basement. My first house was full of it. Like the cabinets matched the walls. It was all just
dude.
wood colored.
Oh,
Yeah, nice, lovely cherry
yeah.
wood. So they're having a business meeting.
I could smell it.
Oh, dude.
Shawn used to come to my
100%.
first house.
100%. So they're having this business meeting, and they're talking about like, oh, when we go back and we rebuild this whole sanctuary, you know, there's a bunch of young people. They're like, why don't we just do sheetrock all over the sanctuary? That way it'll be cleaner, it'll look nicer. But Sister Susie over there, that's been in the church since Jesus was in grade school, you know, is sitting over there like, we've had paneling for the last 40 years, and we're going to have paneling again. And so you see the pastor up there, and he's like, well, half the wall will be sheetrock, the bottom half will be like paneling. And I'm over here as a young teenager, like, what does this matter?
Yeah.
Like, does this make an impact in people's life? No, it does not.
You can gather together in the shed and praise Jesus.
And so there's so many places around America that is so consumed with these little things. And my encouragement for anybody that watches this, or maybe they find it 50 years from now or 60 years from now when I'm dead and gone, like, just focus on Jesus.
Yeah.
Focus on your relationship with Him. Like, how do we... Because here's a fact, guys. Like, with that, let's bring it back to the aliens and stuff. There's a thought out there. It's called the blue light theory, or Project Blue Light, I think, that there's this whole... One day there's going to be this big abduction, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here thinking, well, I know of a time in the Bible that talks about a large abduction.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the rapture of the church, rapture of the believers of Jesus Christ. And when you hear those things, you think, man, is that how they're going to explain it? Like, is that how they're going to explain that when Jesus comes back, is all of a sudden all these believers and stuff are gone? Well, they just were taken by aliens, you know?
It's me, God, up here in my spaceship.
You know, and so you hear all these things, but I think to myself, you know, and I've not always done a good job of this, so I'm not sitting here saying holier than thou or I'm better than anyone else or anything like that, because gosh, I fall short every single day, and I don't do a great job every single day. And there's people in my life that do not know Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior, and I believe 100% one day, if they do not turn and I do not tell them about Jesus Christ, I'm going to have to answer for that one day, because I hold the key and the hope for so many people's lives in my own heart because of what Jesus Christ did inside of me. Because He saw someone that does not deserve forgiveness, that the Bible says very clearly that the wages of sin is death, and I deserve death. For everything I've done in my life, I deserve it. But one day I'm going to stand in front of God, and my sins are going to get called out. And I truly believe inside of my heart that once all those things are called out, that Jesus is going to stand up and say, God, that one is mine. That one has a relationship with me. And that's the key. Mm-hmm. It's not about how many church services you go. You need to go to church. You need to invest in your relationship with the fellow believers. But the bottom line is, if I don't have a relationship with Jesus Christ, if I am not investing in reading my Bible, getting closer to Him, and knowing who He is as a person, then I am missing it. Yeah. Because of who I am as an individual, that I deserve death, But Jesus one day hung on the cross for me and died and took the punishment of my sins so that I could live in a life that is honoring of him and is living and get to experience eternal life with him and never have to be separated from his presence again.
Yeah.
And that's what my hope is for everyone. And you can say, listen, it's not fun, it's not exciting, I have more fun without Jesus. But just to be 100% honest, like, being a follower of Christ, it's a lot of fun. It's just you have to be open to it.
Yeah. I always like when I pray and stuff like that, I always say, like, hey, I don't deserve, your listening, like, I don't blame you if you don't listen. That's what I always say. I don't blame you if you don't listen. And then, if I die tomorrow, I understand. And that's real. Like, I know, like, if I die tomorrow, it's good. I understand why. Just, I hope I, can go to heaven and be there, that sort of stuff. But yeah.
It's, like I say, like, my punishment should be death. It should be eternal separation from God. But Jesus gave me another option. And I'm never gonna be able to say thank you enough to him. But the one thing I can say is I'm gonna work as hard as I can for him. And so if there's people that don't know him and want to know more information, y'all can reach out to me. You can find me on, you come down to Yoder Metal. We'll sit in my office and talk about Jesus Christ all you want. You can message me on TikTok or Facebook or whatever. We will talk about Jesus. That's the one thing I will tell people is I'm always excited to talk Jesus to someone.
Yeah, I've always, and me and you talked about this. I've never been like a super religious. I've never, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I believe, in God, and I know that, I was in church for a while, and I was pretty hardcore into church and stuff like that. But, I just, like, when I was 16, I just kind of, just started having fun, and we're not, not really having fun, but just being me, just being crazy. And there was other things I got into with, just the world. I started making videos. We started, hanging out with friends, and I felt like I just didn't have, time to go to church because there was so much stuff to do, and I always had like somebody, calling me and doing stuff. Me and Dylan go skateboarding. There's all kinds of stuff.
What a terrible influence you were on.
That's a good influence.
You see how he's just throwing you under the bus like that? He's like, I couldn't go to church because Dylan's trying to get me to go skateboard.
Sorry,
that wasn't me.
No, it wasn't you. I'm not saying it was you. But there was some times we went, skateboarded on a Sunday.
I think we all strayed, though.
Yeah,
we've all got out of church and strayed and feel like we didn't have time. But you just got to make time. You've got to make time.
Yeah, that's a good word. Stray.
Yeah.
I didn't lose sight of Jesus, but I know he's there, but I didn't like lose sight, and because this is what I always tell everybody. It's like, God knows where my heart is.
Yeah,
I would always tell everybody that. People would come up to me all the time. Oh, why didn't you come back to church? Because like I said, I was heavily involved in church. I was doing sign art for Temple Baptist back when they were kind of small and all that. And I don't know. I just
That's a great statement that God knows where your heart is.
Yeah, I tell everybody that. Well, God knows where my heart is. I'm not out here, just being, ratchet. I'm just.
Just think for just a second. That statement.
Yeah.
How powerful that is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's break it down real quick. So the God of the universe, right?
Yeah.
The God that spoke
existence
and said, hey, let there be light, and there was light.
Yeah.
Right? Created everything we see, the atoms that everything's made up of. That God knows Shawn's heart.
It's possible.
It's not possible. It is.
It is.
Like that's the crazy thing that I think is so powerful about our God.
Yeah.
Is he knows all three of our hearts. The people who are listening, he knows your heart. And the thing is, like we strive so much in life of figuring out, like, you know, like I talk about all the time, like everyone's trying to figure out, like, I need to speak my truth.
Yeah.
And things like that. And like there's times for that, my opinions and stuff like that. But the God of the universe knows who you are. Calls you by name. Sits there and says, like, hey, I not only know who you are, I created you for a time, and that is right now. And not only created you for this time that we're sitting in, he knew that us three were going to have this conversation, right? Yeah. And he has a plan and a purpose for each and every one of us. There's the verse that my oldest son is named after, Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans that I have for you, thus saith the Lord, plans to prosper you, to give you a hope and a future. Like, he knows each of us individually and has a plan and a purpose for each of us. And man, that's incredible. So, like, I just think that's such an awesome statement that you say is, and I think you may have just said that, just like, hey, you know, as a gesture towards God of like, hey, God knows my heart, but I want you to hear that statement from the flip side of God looking at you, that yes, he 100% does.
There was a one time, or not one time, there was, like, you know, with when because there was a stretch like when my parents passed away, and like everything was like dominoing. Yeah. And it was like, I was like, I don't know what I've done wrong, like, because I would you know, go back, and at that point I wasn't praying, I was like talking, you know what I mean? Yeah. I was like, hey, you know, what I do wrong, like what's going on, can it stop? Yeah. Like I don't know any other way to explain it, but I was like, you know, it was putting me down, like in a shit.
Hey, dude, it's
cool. All right. We've all been there.
Yeah.
I've been there.
100%.
Sometimes getting down and to your lowest points, that's how you become great. That's how you grow. Slap in the face. I mean, I've been through that, you know. Stuff happens to my kids, you know. My kid gets hurt, or like when Renly had surgery when she was a baby and stuff, you know, what did I do wrong? You know, what is this punishment that I'm doing? And there's a purpose behind everything that happens. And he has a plan, and he has a goal, and you just got to keep sight of that. You can't run off, you know, and blame him. It's just, you know.
It's such a... So I'm dealing with like a situation in my own life, and so there's a potentially big thing coming down the tracks that we know is going to be difficult, and we know it's going to be hard in our family's life. And there's a lot of family members that are not really happy with God in this decision, right? And they're not... it breaks my heart to see them go through that, like, because it's a situation that, and I really have to be careful how I say it, because it's not really public or anything. It's a situation that is very difficult, and it's a very difficult thing that we're walking through. And, you know, someone I'm very, very close to is mad at God about it. And, man, it breaks my heart for them that they're mad at God about it, right? But I also know that God is brokenhearted for them. Like, he is upset about this. And, like, I just really... Situations happen that we can't control. That's life. Like, life is not fair. But the beauty of having a relationship with Jesus and our families having relationships with Jesus is even death is not the end. There's hope found in having a relationship with Jesus, because when you lose someone or a situation happens where you do lose someone, like you're talking about, Shawn, it's not a goodbye. It's simply there's just going to be a time that I don't have you in my life.
Till we meet again.
Yeah.
But it's tough. I mean, even in real life, like living without losing a family member or something like that, you might go through a situation where you're separated from someone, and it could be tough. I mean, it's just like, you can go through a mourning of someone that's still alive. And it's like, how did I get in this situation where this person's gone and, like, yet they're still alive, but I feel like, I'm alone, and what did I do wrong? And I'm a good person, I've never done anything terrible to anyone, and I've always kind of stayed in church and stuff, and you could do some minuscule things that are wrong, and God, sometimes it takes big acts to slap you in the face and be like, look, you need to turn from this, turn your life around and go in this direction, and sometimes it's pretty hard, because that's what God said. He'll tell us, and if we're not listening, there will be consequences to us not listening, and then you got to live with those consequences. But that's, personal things, and but I learned a lot, better person.
That's what I thought, because I wasn't like, mad, I guess you would say. I mean, I really don't know. Like, I don't want to say I was mad, but I was like, why is all this happening? And then, going through it, it sucked.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
So I don't know any other way to explain it.
It's not easy to go through life, no matter what circumstances hit us. And for any of us to sit there and say, like, hey, I got the answer, is foolish, I believe. I just know this, that when I look back in my life, I've only been on this earth 32 years, right? I think. I don't know. Anyway, somewhere I'm at the age now where I have to, like, think about it. But I've only been for 30 plus years. I can't understand. I lost my grandpa when I was young, and he was a key fundamental part of who I was as a kid. And, I've lost both of my grandmas. Luckily, I've not lost my parents, though I've been through some trauma with my parents after I become an adult, with them walking through a divorce and stuff like that. In life, I feel like you're dealt cards, right? Nobody knows what those cards are going to be dealt, and we don't know what tomorrow looks like. Like, it's very possible that I could just as easily get in my car, drive home, and that be the last thing that ever happens to me. That's in the realm of possibilities, right? I hope it doesn't happen. I pray it doesn't, because I got two young boys that I'm still trying to make men out of, despite everyone's efforts to turn them into spoiled brats. But, I look back in my years, and every situation that I see and I thought was the death of me and the end of me, and I thought I would never make it out. I think about when I went through my divorce to my first wife. I thought, gosh, this is it, And then I look back at it now and I say, man, I had no clue what you were doing in that situation. but you were doing something. And I look back at just all kinds of different situations that I went through in my life, and I see God be faithful to me. Mm-hmm. And then I come back to the reality of today and the challenges that I face every day, the challenges of being in a business, being co-host of a podcast, being a dad and a husband, and just walking through life. I try to keep this in my mind. I do not do a good job of it always. Shawn can attest to this. I'm sometimes I get frustrated and I get very stern and act like I'm big and tough and whatever, but I always try to go back to the fact that God was faithful yesterday. He's been faithful all of my life. And what makes me think today that God's going to take a day off?
Yeah.
And when you keep that in your mind, whatever you face in life, as long as you have that relationship with Him, He's going to take care of you. Does that mean that it might be a physical end to your physical body? Yes, it does. That can happen. But that just means that I get to go spend eternity with Jesus. And that's not a bad consolation prize to life. It's not a consolation prize. It is the prize. And so, Shawn, me and you've talked about, that time in your life. And, I think you told me about, the situation where, you were out in the yard yelling about it. And the thing is, dude, like, man, it's awesome to have a God that you can talk about those emotions to.
I don't think you're supposed to yell at him.
Who says that? Find me chapter and verse.
Yeah. That
says you can't yell at God. Because, like, here's the cool thing. When Jesus Christ came down and took human form, every emotion that we have, He's had.
I mean, He yelled and tore the temple apart and slung it everywhere and yelled at them. So
I heard a dude say one time, everybody back in the 90s, we used to all wear those WWJD bracelets.
Yep.
And, what would Jesus do? And throwing temples and fashioning a whip is not out of the realm of possibilities with Jesus, because He did that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know how long it takes to make a whip out of something. It's not a fast process. It's not something you can go pick up at the Dollar General, right?
Yeah.
Like that's got to be it's got to take some time. And so Jesus experienced anger. Jesus experienced frustrations, anxiety, all those things. Every emotion that we have, Jesus actually experienced it. And man, so when I have a conversation with Jesus and I say, hey, listen, today Shawn frustrated me at work today because he did this, and I know you understand what that feels like.
Yeah.
Man, how powerful is that? That you can have a conversation with a God that actually knows where you're coming from. Now, it may not be the exact, me being frustrated with you and him being frustrated with the disciples, probably not as much weight, but He gets it. So, and that's the cool thing about Jesus, is He gets not only our situation, but He gets us.
Yeah. It's been a good conversation.
We're going to have to split this into 2 parts.
have our dad episode and have a
we'll have an alien, not
aliens,
have the alien short, and we'll just be preaching with my hat on.
Yeah.
Alien is just like a tiny piece of this. And you wore the hat the whole time.
That's fine.
My head's kind of irritated a little bit now.
So
might be cooking me.
He's got aluminum poisoning going on.
My forehead's just going to be red for like a month.
Yeah.
He's getting sunburnt right
Bought
now.
the dollar stuff, so that's probably not the best idea.
Should have went with that. What's that brand? The name brand, I can't even remember it.
Reynolds Wrap.
That's it. Wow.
Straight out.
I was just looking at it to buy it. That's the reason.
Oh, okay.
It's so hard being on a podcast and trying to produce it at the same time.
Well, you're doing a fantastic job.
I mean, you only broke down the one time. That's pretty good.
I looked up, I seen the camera was on me, and I was like, oh, man.
It's like, switch it. Shows
right.
the emotion.
We have went 2 hours, and this is one of the best conversations I probably ever had on a podcast. We usually just talk about nonsense, so this was a real one. This was a pretty wild podcast, I think.
Let's do it again next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what we're going to do.
Well, it was definitely an honor to get sit with you guys. I think a lot of you, Shawn and Dylan, man, we go way back and love you and love your family. I mean, your mom was, I was constantly around your mom with her working at the school and stuff, and I always thought a lot of your dad and you and your brother, man, y'all are good people, come from good people, so. But guys, I really do. I appreciate y'all inviting me on here and let me share my heart about what Jesus has done to me, and hopefully, as long as I'm on this earth, I get to keep sharing that.
Yeah. It was like I said, it was a good conversation. It led into places I didn't think it would lead to, so it was pretty crazy.
We love you too.
Yeah, we love you too. But thank you guys for watching. You can find us on Spotify and YouTube, of course. If you are subscribe while you're here, if you enjoyed this episode, or follow us on Spotify. Doing really well on both. Our last episode, or our first episode, hit a really good goal, which we thought was really cool. But yeah, I'm actually kind of speechless. I didn't know this episode would go this way.
Just thinking about aliens all day long.
Yeah, I thought we had a total different.
But you told me, you were like, dude, like we're gonna talk about aliens, and I was like, okay, and he actually told me he's like so study up tomorrow night, and I was like, or last night, and I was like, I'm not gonna do that.
He told me too, and I think I looked on Twitter, because Twitter's usually a good source of information.
Great content.
I Twitter searced a little bit. And so then
first
read
of all,
it, but then
X now.
I didn't even. Well, X, same thing. Twitter X.
Yeah, it's X now.
Yeah, I got on there for like maybe 10, 15 minutes and did a quick search, which now my feed's gonna be full of it. But did a little reading, which I already kind of had a plan, and so it worked out.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you, Dylan, for being the co-host. Appreciate you so much, and thank you, Cory, for coming on. It was a really good conversation.
Absolutely, man.
We'll have you back on one day in the future, and we'll see where this podcast goes. Anyway, thank you guys. Again, subscribe to the channel for more content. I will see you guys in the next one.